Hey guys, TKC here with the very first video for the Dragon Strike Infernus set review. Of course, we're going to start with the Light Civilization because that is the first civilization on the list. And let's get straight to it. Let's start with the super rare, of course. And that super rare is Andromeda of the Citadel. I love this card. A lot of people have been loving this card. It's been hyped like crazy. It's just been blowing up the Kaijudo scene. And I love this card so much. I'm a part of this hype. It's so good. It's really, really good. Now, be careful on the word broken, though. A lot of people like to describe cards as broken, and the word broken is basically a word that defines a card that literally breaks the game in a sense, in that it is so powerful that this card really should not have been printed ever. Now, Andromeda is not an example of a broken card. A lot of people have been mistaking it for that. Or a lot of people are just kind of like exaggerating that it's broken. A lot of people like to do that. I fall for that sometimes as well. Sometimes I just say, oh my god, it's so broken. But it's like, it's not broken. It's not breaking the game. It's a really, really, really good card. And for that reason, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. Because it is really good and it fits in literally any deck using light. Almost. You know, of course, it's not going to be in a light rush deck. You know, it's a level 9. You're not going to be getting out, you know, turn 5 with it unless you play a lot of birds. But even then, you still won't be able to get it turn 5. So, for that reason, I mean, like, any control deck using light, you'd be kind of silly to not use Andromeda of the Citadel because it's just so great. It gets you shields, it protects you from creatures attacking directly at you, and it's a double breaker and has a lot of power. So it just has a lot of good things going for it, and that's why I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. So now let's get on to the non-super rares of the set. The first card being Arachnopod. I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, you could be really cute and use 2 Arachnopods and then like infinite block or something like that, but I don't know. Arachnopod really doesn't have anything going for it. It's a Skyweaver. It's a new race. I guess that's kind of interesting, but other than that, I guess I'm going to give it a 1.5 because it has potential with the untapping thing, but other than that, I really don't see anything going on with this card. Alright, so the next card is Aurora Valkyrie, a Skyforce Champion evolution creature, which will go alongside Ravu the Stormbringer, just right over here. Now, if I were to compare Aurora Valkyrie with Ravu the Stormbringer, I would probably have to go with Ravu the Stormbringer. Just for 1 mana more, you get a way more powerful effect. I mean, you already have Double Breaker, you already have Blocker, and not only that, all your other creatures have Blocker, and at the end of each of your turns, everything untaps, which is ridiculous. So I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, this thing dies to Comet Missile, this thing dies to Comet Missile, they're bad. But you have to realize that, like, you could say that about every single card of the game and say, oh, they died to Terror Pit. Oh, whoop-de-doo. So, you know, that argument is kind of, you know, useless. There's really no point in saying that. And not only that, Comet Missile is not really a commonly played card. It is, you know, found here and there. It's especially found in rush decks, of course, because if you're not using Comet Missile in a rush deck, then that's crazy. But, yeah, I mean, the effect itself is decent, you know, like, you know, if you win a battle, you draw a card. So it gives light more draw cards, but later on in the set, you'll see a way better draw card for light. So I'm going to have to give this a 2.5 because it's, you know, interesting. It helps Skyforce champions. I guess you could, you know, fit that in with copies of Ravu the Stormbreaker, but like I said before, I easily prefer Ravu over Aurora Valkyrie, just for the sheer power of what this card can do compared to, you know, just drawing cards. Alright, next we have Canyon Skimmer, an excellent common in the set. It's so cool that it's basically a blocker and a blinder beetle mixed in one, and it's not just the blinder beetle effect, it's also the race. So it's also an enforcer, and that's very, very useful for enforcer type decks. So you could evolve, you know, Halon and Cobalt, of course. So Canyon Skimmer is perfect for those Cobalt control decks, you know, because they're basically extra copies of Blinder Beetle, and they're also blockers as well. So it gives you more blockers to use, and you don't have to use, you know, just 3 Chasm and 3 Blinder Beetle and then kind of just go with the Cobalts. You could actually use 3 of each, or whatever combination. You could add Canyon Skimmers in there too. So it allows you to play more Cobalts, essentially, or more Enforcer Evolutions in general. So for that reason, Canyon Skimmer is definitely getting a 4. It's an excellent card, and it fits in, you know, various different kind of light decks. Alright, the next card is a light spell, the very first one I'm going to be talking about, and that is Defense Mode. it's very irrelevant. Defense mode is not really cool. Defense mode is just a level 1 spell that gives one of your creatures blocker until the start of your next turn. So, I really don't see the point of it. Defense mode is just kind of like signaling, like it's a waste of a card basically. You know, you use it, you lose a resource in your hand, and you're basically telling your opponent, hey, I have a blocker now, you can't do anything to me. But it's just, why would you want to do that? You're just wasting a card and doing nothing valuable on your board. So, you know, you could just play a blocker, and that way you have field presence, and at the same time you still have that, oh, I have a blocker effect thing. Why would you want to use a spell to kind of get rid of that? You know, you basically lose advantage for no reason. So because of that, this card is getting a 1. I'm sorry, this card I really don't see the purpose of this card. You know, at the very most, it could be a 1.5, but it's really not that useful. Alright, next we have another light dragon, and that is Gemini Dragon. This card is great, not to mention Gemini is my horoscope sign, so I personally really like it. But Gemini Dragon's really, really cool. You know, it just becomes the biggest creature in the game just by activating 2 spells. Yeah, that's right. This effect doesn't only happen once, it stacks every time you use a spell. So you could play this, and then play Logo Scan to draw 2, Bone Blade's a creature, and then, oh my goodness, Gemini Dragon is 14,500 and it can get over Flame Spike Tatsurion. Yeah, that's a thing. So Gemini Dragon is usually found as a splash in kind of dragon decks that use light. So, you know, you could just kind of like throw in one in a deck that uses, you know, a decent amount of cheap spells and, you know, light dragon cards like Lux and Lyra and Andromeda and stuff like that. So, Gemini Dragon, I'm going to give it a 3.5. You know, this card isn't only for dragon-centric decks. You could use it in any deck and just use cheap spells and boost it up really huge. And it combos really well with a spell I'm going to be talking about later on. So, yeah, good card. Next, we have the very first Firebird. We have Lux. This card is amazing. It protects your dragons and makes them cheaper, and it only costs 2 mana. Excellent stuff. This card's great, and not to mention, it's so cute. Look at it. Oh! Like, just imagine this scenario in your head. Turn 2 Lux, turn 4 Herald, turn 5 Lyra, tap something, banish that creature with Herald, play Andromeda of the Citadel. Your turn. Wow. And that Andromeda, and that Herald, and that Lyra are protected by that Lux. That basically made that all possible. Yeah. So, by far, maybe not by far, but by a considerable margin, Lux is probably the best Firebird, and that means that Lux is getting a 4. Lux is just so good. Alright, now we're going to go on to the next Light Dragon, and that is Lyra the Blazing Sun. Another excellent card. I've been talking about Lyra a bunch already. Lyra is just so sick. It's a level 6, 6,000 Celestial Dragon. You put it into play, you tap a creature, and that creature stays tapped until the start of their next turn. So it doesn't untap on their turn. It's not like Starlight Strategist, my preview card, which sadly is not as good anymore because of this Lyra card. But I'm not disappointed at all. Lyra is amazing. And Lyra is also going to be getting a 5 out of 5 because you don't have to use a dragon deck to play Lyra. Of course, it's preferable to play a deck that, you know, has some sort of dragon support like Lux, of course, like I just talked about. But you really don't have to be using Lux. It just makes Lyra better. So just Lyra on itself is just excellent to lock down annoying creatures and deal with them later. Find the answer to it. Excellent card. Light Civilization is just so good. Next card, we have a rare Reflector Cannon. I don't know. It's strange. It's interesting. It's a Stormspark Blast in a creature when it gets banished. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how useful that could possibly be. Like, the only reason I could see yourself using it is that you just kind of, like, randomly push your Reflector Cannon into a big creature and then tap all of their other creatures and then use your bigger creature to get over stuff. But that seems way too specific of a case for it to actually be useful. So I'm going to give Reflector Cannon a 1.5 because the effect is neat, but I really don't see much use out of it. Oh, and it's a fractal. I mean, now Seer Serpent isn't alone, I guess. Seer Serpent Evo? It would still suck. Alright, now we got another spell in the Light Civilization. We have Spark Cage, aka the Light Logo Scan. That is right, I've already explained why this card is basically Logo Scan for Light. You're drawing one card, so you're going even, but then you tap a creature. And that means if you banish that creature with one of your creatures that are on the field, you get another +1. So that ends up being a +1 general advantage, and that's what Logo Scan does. You use one card to get 2, and Spark Cage is essentially the same thing. You use one card to get one card, but then you're basically making your opponent losing one card, meaning if you reciprocate that, if that's a word, it ends up becoming a +1 for you, and that's a +1. So Spark Cage is just excellent. It's something Light really needed. Nature got Reap and Sow, which is interesting. Darkness got Gloom Tomb, which I'm going to be showing later, and Black Feather, Shadow Abyss. But now Light has like an actual draw card. It had Argus, Vigilant Seer, which was like a kind of weird seneschal for them, but it really wasn't that great. So now we have Spark Cage, which is just excellent, tapping creature, drawing card. So for that reason, it's getting a 4 out of 5. Very good card. Alright, next we got another Skyforce champion, not an evolution of course, but it is Stormseeker. It's interesting. It's definitely one of the better Skyforce champions, if not the best in the 5 slot anyway. The other level 5 Skyforce champions are Twilight Commander and Starwing, and neither one are really like impressive. Twilight Commander is kind of cool. You could do some interesting combos with it, and for that reason I've been using that for Skyforce champion bait with Ravu the Stormbringer that I showed earlier. But now I would probably rather play Stormseeker in a Skyforce champion deck that uses a lot of spells like Spark Cage, and I guess pair it up with Water and Darkness maybe for draw and removal. I don't know, something like that. Or maybe even Fire, because Skyforce champion has a lot of tap, and Herald of Infernus is pretty good with tap and stuff. Tatsir on the Unchained as well. So I don't know, Stormseeker is kind of cool. It ends up getting you a +1 if it's a spell on top of the deck, which is definitely very interesting. Advantage is always good. So I'm going to give Stormseeker a 2.5 because I'm kind of unsure as to how good this card could be. But in a Skyforce champion based deck, you'd be kind of silly not to run it because you have a chance of drawing a card, and it's cheap bait for your Ravu the Stormbringer or Aurora Valkyrie that I talked about earlier. And as for the last Light card in the Light Civilization, we have Vectro Scout, a 3/3 vanilla Invader. That's it. It's a 1. That's definitely a 1. There's no Invader support. We already have Luminar, which is at least an Enforcer, which is relevant. So Vectro Scout, go away. Alright, so that's it, guys, for TKC's Light Civilization review for Dragon Strike Infernus. Very, very good cards in here. I will have to say Light Civilization is definitely the best civilization in this set. It's pretty close, though. It's not like the best, clearly. It's like, oh, it's so good, it has to be the best. But I think you can all agree that Light got so many great cards out of this set, and I'm just really happy for that because Light's been kind of underappreciated just a little bit, except for, Cobalt Control, because that deck was really awesome. And now we have so many more awesome tools for Light decks in general. Alright, so this is TKC signing off. Stay tuned for the Water Civilization. Have a nice day, guys. See you later.